G'day friends and fans. Welcome to Dave Talk Stuff, Ukraine War Update for the 5th of August 2025. I'm your host, the author David Applegate, author of the books The ProWritingAid, Power Games, Into the Elves Mound, and The Erotic Tales from the Empire. Part 1 available now. Thank you to all those who support the channel. And I invite you to support the channel through my links in the link tree. Damn. Right there. All right. Handy little website. Support me on Patreon. Buy my books. Buy my merch. All in one handy, neat little spot. All right. So, arms flows. Nothing particularly. The usual. Now, this article by CNN, of course, is all full of shit. You know, the problem with making promises to end the war and why they're escalating is because places like CNN and ABC and most media outlets are on Ukraine's side and escalating and push to escalate the war because the left have no blowback. There's no anti-war movement. There's only an anti-Republican movement. Then the anti-Republican movement are all just leftover fascists and communists and all the other salty sore losers of history. So they're going to push to destroy capitalism, comrades, because Ukraine, they think Zelensky's the hero of the people when he's just another corrupt communist. A wolf in sheep's clothing, another parasite of the public. And they produce garbage like this. You call that a drone? There's no way. That's typical Ukrainian propaganda. Doesn't even look like the drones on showing on other channels. So, this is the problem. The media pumps out all this garbage, but thousands watch it every day and believe it. And I'm not saying that there weren't attacks on Ukraine and that Russian drones haven't killed people, but what I'm saying is they never tell you about the military targets. And again, they claim that they've destroyed, we destroyed this Air Force and we destroyed all these aircrafts. It's garbage. Ukraine is lashing out like a spoiled child because there's no blowback. They don't have to prove anything because the media laps up every piece of garbage they put out. Even their own websites don't have them conducting a drone strike on Crimea. And so what if foreign mercenaries from other countries are fighting from China? Zelensky has thousands of foreigners in his army. Oh no, that's right. Anything to produce. This is the problem. I forget the name. It's a syndrome, right? Where you hear somebody whine and you automatically believe them and think they're whining about something that's hurt them. When in reality, all they're doing is just making noise. Attention seeking. Vladimir Zelensky's a political trash. It should be mocked, ridiculed. Isn't it amazing? The left have this hero, Chomsky, who says everything should be challenged. Yet, do you see any challenges to any truth to power against Zelensky or his secret service or any of these vicious claims of attacks on civilians when if Russia was just shelling a town, what stops them from moving in? There has to be a military presence. Otherwise, Russia would just be moving in all the time. But unfortunately, people out there are so stupid. They'll tell you that North Korea is falling apart, that China's going to collapse any day now. Why? Because maybe one of these days the predictions will come true, and in the meantime, the people's hearts are full of hate and are just going to watch this garbage, not because they want to be informed, but because they want to be entertained, because they want their biases confirmed. So the media is reducing itself to garbage tin nonsense. When most of these drones, look at them, you really think that... yeah. And because the West is so full of corrupt politicians and gutless wonders who just sit there and go, hey, we'll get him in the next election. India is claiming that they're being targeted for importing Russian oil. So, so what, India? Lo and behold, that's their right. You have no rights. Your rights do not extend beyond your border. You're not entitled to world trade. You're not entitled to mass export people. And people are getting sick of your shit, India. Because, again, India doesn't pick a side other than who they can screw over today. And it's about time people woke up to that reality. And India's not playing nice. They are not nice people, and they're not fair-minded people. That Modi is in it to grab as much as he can for Modi and India, so that he can stay in power. And Indians, while they whine about colonialism and celebrate Independence Days, they race off to other countries and run for government. So, of course, people should be, rightfully so, mocking and ridiculing them. But they aren't, because Indians can go, you're racist. Really? You started it by kicking Britain out. Britain didn't conquer India. This is the misdirection of history. India went willingly like a lamb to the slaughter to join the empire. They were talked into it. Sure, there were some wars, as with any, but the vast majority of the British Empire lined up to be part of it. Sure, there was some colonialism, but for the most part, it was, please come build railways and ports and forgive us civilization and flushing toilets. And then, once they got everything they wanted, they started acting like ungrateful brats. And that's the fact. And Ukraine, they're an ungrateful brat. They're a breakaway republic of Russia. There's no such thing as Ukrainian. It's like saying East Romania and West Romania, or Northern Poland and Southern Poland, or, once upon a time, people could probably feel sorry for Ukraine, but they brought it on themselves. Since 1935, there's been nothing but revolutions, corruption, because of the parasite mentality of socialism. And they're still socialists. They only just want to latch on to the EU because the EU, like a bunch of gutless wonders, spend other people's money and bully you into submission. And if you don't vote the way they want, they cancel your elections. They have college students constantly whine about colonialism and Yet they don't kick the foreigners out. That's colonialism. The vast majority of people don't want to be informed, though. They want to be entertained, or they want their biases confirmed. So the vast majority are going to gravitate towards being told Ukraine is winning when they're not, that we're defending democracy when we're not. And this is all a distraction from the mass migration and the economic failures of liberal democracy. That London, Birmingham, Watford, and a dozen other English places are now majority-minority. That means you're occupied by colonial. Just because somebody is in the colonial power now doesn't call themselves such. You're still occupied by foreigners who vote for themselves and increasingly want more and more benefits from you while they engage in willful crimes against you and then complain that you are a threat to them. So stop thinking you're great because you're so generous. No, doormat. Nobody records the doormats in history. Everybody despises you because you're a doormat. Nobody likes you. And this is the problem. If not for the doormat mentality, Europe, 20 years ago, stood up to Ukraine and said, no, you're corrupt. It's Obama came along and exploited this corruption because the left hates Russia for leaving communism. And communist China wants Russia weakened so they can divvy it up. And the Europeans and the Americans, and trust me, there's a lot in America too, they're just so full of hatred. You see it every day. People, no matter how often somebody comes out and proves that Hillary Clinton made up the Russian dossier, doesn't matter. In their mind, they believe that Trump's a Russian agent, and it's their right to believe a lie. And their right to insult you, and their right to constantly come back at you and basically call you all the names under the sun. But as soon as you respond to them, Facebook will ban you. Because that is the liberal hypocrisy that is going on today. The liberal hypocrisy that created the Ukraine war. The liberal hypocrisy that supports a war while they bleat about Iraq. Another war started by Democrats. You could say Bush signed the War Act, but it was Biden who introduced it. It was Hillary and Biden who pushed it in the Senate. And Al Gore. Biden was pushing for a war in Iraq in 1998. It was Biden who pushed the dossier of weapons of mass destruction in 1998. Just like it was Obama who pushed this stupid notion that we have to defend Ukraine's borders no matter what, when Ukraine is a piece of shit. As soon as you make a promise, some asshole will exploit that promise. You promised to defend Ukraine, so an asshole will come along and fire artillery at Russia. It's like the negotiations with North Korea. North Korea complains about all these things and South Korea gets rid of them. What happens? North Korea says, now fuck off. We're going to still be a nuclear power. It's like, there's no appeasing evil. Have you not learnt anything from Chamberlain? No, you haven't. You elected a smooth-talking man because he looked nice. And that was Obama, Keir Starmer. It's got nothing to do with race. It's about the pathetic populist notion that if somebody looks good, they must be good. Which is why Zelensky got elected because he sounded nice. People keep falling for scams because people like me are ignored by the majority because I'm not young, I'm not pretty, I don't have bouncy jigglies, I'm not famous, I'm not in the insider club where I have all these famous friends, I'm not rich because daddy didn't give me a hunk of money, I don't have a PR firm that gives me 20,000 false views and likes. You can tell those channels, the moment they go live, they got 40,000 subscribers in 1 month and they get 300 views on a live stream. But their videos get thousands of likes. Actually, I noticed lately a lot of people aren't even bothering to tweet their live streams anymore, which is weird, but I don't care. You know, I think retweeting is starting to die. I've noticed that. Same with likes. Most people don't leave likes anymore either. And yet the algorithms demand that if you don't get likes, you don't get promoted. But I think that's cope by YouTube to... I don't think the YouTube algorithm is real. I think it's a thumb on the scale where they just have a computer program that says, right, we'll promote these channels because they say the things we like. Then we'll promote a few safe channels because their viewership is full of argument and heated discussion. And, you know, it gives us the illusion of the democracy when in fact, you know, they don't want to appear too biased. But at the end of the day, the establishment is neither left nor right. It's a selfish club. And when Russia left that club because they were sick of the corruption, they were sick of people coming to their country and stealing their technology and then claiming it as their own, but nobody wants to address that. Nobody wants to address the elephant in the room that no matter how bad a country is, you should never sink to their level. You shouldn't steal from them. Just because they're bad doesn't mean you've got the right to steal from them or wage war against them. Because ultimately one day, that's what will happen to you. The world will gang up on you. And that's what's happening now. Britain has been torn apart by all the salty sore losers of history. And the British won't stand up for themselves. Because they keep getting beaten down by the belligerent assholes that are feminists and judges and lawyers and all the other self-appointed do-gooders. But we're seeing now, slowly, the Ukrainians standing up for themselves and telling Zelensky no more war. People are sick of the war. Now here we have Russian media again. Now they are addressing the Ukrainian towns by their old name when they were part of Russia. Now they are pounding these towns. Now I've seen images of the artillery, and like, if you've ever seen a World War I movie, it's far less intense than that. And as you can see, they're not big guns. They're not firing hundreds of artillery per hour. They're not spread out in big, complex trench networks. Though they are spread out. Now, there has been battles before, and apparently they've escalated today. Now, I don't know if many people out there remember the French Yellow Vest. They were a spontaneous grassroots movement that died out because it was mostly amongst farmers and other people who work. They're eventually outlasted by the belligerent left, who could basically engage in violence without arrest, can engage in political sabotage without consequence. They can smear people in the media without consequence. And of course, they're not employed, and I've heard this so often where people go to university and spend decades at university, freeloading off the public, funded by political movements who use these animals to engage in political violence. So you can't compare the Yellow Vests to the political animals from Kiev. But people spent years before the Maidan Revolution watching these military shows build up. They weren't organic. They were trained. They built sandbags, barbed wire. They had checkpoints. They were organised. And of course, they were well funded. But there's no consequence for Obama or anybody who's engaged in geopolitical sabotage. Because the left is seemingly protected by a corrupt judiciary which turns a blind eye to everything they do. But many, and this is coming and it's going to be hard. But NATO has been told they're going to pay the price. You want a Ukraine war? You have to fund it. You have to pay the consequence. The US taxpayers are not relieved of the entire burden, but they're not carrying Ukraine on their back anymore. But many, Czechoslovakia is joining Hungary and many others, though most people who are against the Ukraine war are politically powerless, unlike Czech leader Pavel. But Czech President Pavel, a former NATO military chair and a long-time supporter of Ukraine, believes it's about time that, even with Western backing, to accept the inevitable. Okay? If you want an independent Ukraine, you're going to have to come to peace terms now with Russia. If not, even if they just, I don't think Russia's going to take all of Ukraine. I think Russia's going to call an end to the war. That this is nothing but Russophobia. This is nothing but a show of force to basically say, look what we did. And then 20 years down the track, everybody's going to go, this is another regrettable war. But the people who caused this war will never suffer the consequences. The Zelenskys of this world get away with it because of the Keir Starmers of this world, the Macrons, the Trudeaus, and the other endless parade of gutless sycophants to power. And the public's inability to unmask the corrupt and to say, no more. These people, you're controlled by lobby groups who have more power and more financial resources than small countries. This is not democracy. Okay? Democracy has a vote. There's no vote on the Ukraine war. There's no debate. There's no public approval. Now, I don't know exactly what the terms of the special military are. And all research seems to indicate that Russia imposed restrictions on itself in order to prevent an escalation, so that no general would have enough fingers on enough buttons to cause, say, World War III, right? So they couldn't go into Ukraine with a whole bunch of missiles and then suddenly decide that they were to, fire at Poland, for instance. Allegedly. This is alleged that Russia imposed restrictions. And it's now alleged that they're lifting some of these restrictions. And that intermediate range missiles, or short range, more will be used. Now, they're also talking about sovereign rights. And this is true. India has the sovereign right to decide who they trade with. But so does America. And if America has the sovereign right to impose tariffs. You got to accept that if you have rights, they can be used against you. And if you don't want them used against you, you have to carve out exceptions. And realize that if you carve out exceptions, others carve out exceptions. So if India has the right to be Indian, shouldn't America have the right to be European? Shouldn't Europe have the right to be European? Apparently not, according to India. So go fuck yourself, India. The same with Russia. If America wants to impose restrictions on India, trading with America, so be it. The world isn't... The problem is everybody just wants to get their way all the time. Whether it be Ukraine or Macron or Keir Starmer. And they're just so childlike. And that when you confront them, they're just startled. Like, but I'm a good person. Like, they have no self-awareness of the harm they do. And I've been there in political circles and I've heard the speeches where they talk about the politics. You have to rise above the mess. That you have to not care about the consequences. They consider it nothing more than cooking. And when you cook, you break a few eggs to make omelettes. I'm trying to impart to enough of you enough awareness so that you can critically think for yourself about this war and realize that the West has to start carving out exemptions for itself because everybody else does. And it's long overdue. If Islam can have an Islamic state, so be it. We should immediately declare ourselves a Christian empire. Fuck the feelings of others. They never cared about you. They only care what they can get off you. They don't believe in free trade or fair trade. The Saudis did not discover oil. They suspected oil because there were a few tar pits and some caves, and oil companies came and exploited this oil and paid them a huge, like 60% or something. But then one day Saudi Arabia said, nah, it's all ours now. And investors lost billions. And Saudi Arabia makes billions of dollars every year in profit. Nobody else does. This is just so much corruption in this world. And people just stand there and say, well, that's their right, sovereign right. Yet, shouldn't we have the same sovereign rights? Shouldn't if you go to India illegally, it's 10 years prison, I think. Why shouldn't Indians be imprisoned? Why should Indians be allowed to migrate to other countries? Why should Ukraine be getting away with making war on Russia and then because this is the way it cycles. Ukraine attacks Russia with drones. Russia retaliates, but the typical left-wing fashion, they film the retaliation. There's a war on. Of course Russia's going to attack. Russia's winning, so why should they call peace talks? What? Just because, remember World War II, you're winning. You could have called an end to it in 1944, but you didn't. You went on to slaughter 19 million people. You got no freaking moral ground to stand on when it comes to war. Because you're just not looking. If Ukraine does not want to end the war, then why should we be forced to pay for their wars? Alright? I am sick and tired of India, third largest economy in the world. But if you take away their foreign aid, they collapse overnight. So why should we give them foreign aid? Same with China. They're not developing nations. They're parasites. And we should have made... Why all these people out there who keep talking about brother wars? Well, why are you making war on Russia? You should be, all these people who think Ukraine's far right. No, you don't know what right wing is. People are trying to... You're falling for the same left-wing propaganda that puts you in a basket. Stop letting foreigners, stop letting leftists, stop letting your enemies define you. Yeah, Russia might need to be liberated, but not by force. And the people who want to break up Russia, why aren't you questioning their greedy motives? Because all they want to do is get their hands on Russian resources so they can continue to enrich themselves because they've run out of public money. They're running out of resources. They're gluttons. People like Keir Starmer don't care. So why should you care about their political careers? Why should you care about the public servants when they don't serve the public? Why should you care about doctors when they're earning $160,000 a year on public money? Or nurses complaining they don't get enough when they're paid twice the average wage? They are slavers with their heels in your neck and their hands in your pocket. But the paranoid, the delusional, the greedy, and the envious, they have a coalition known as feminism, socialism, and all the other gutless wonders who are masquerading as good people are actually parasites. And of course they want to help migrants so they can buy their vote, so they can keep you a slave. And the Ukraine war is basically, as Huxley warned you, that they will make you like your enslavement because they have you fearing something else, something worse. So instead of having your eyes on the prize to try and create a free and fair society for you and your people, you have the envious from around the world who come in and parasite off you because of the gutless non-contributors in this world who just want to reach into your pocket using the power of the gutless imperialist. They are lazy cowards. That's what most migrants are. Lazy cowards. They ruined their country, so they go to somewhere else to parasite. And the only way we are going to awaken the world is to end the Ukraine war, because it ends the charade that is keeping people from realizing that there are worse problems out there than Zelensky's paranoid delusions about a Russian invasion. Because we wouldn't have a war in Russia if we wouldn't have a war against Russia, if it wasn't for Zelensky attacking the people of Donetsk instead of honouring the Minsk Accords. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and please support the channel. You can check out the links in the description below. You can support me on Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree. You can find that in the description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. Please and thank you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.